Welcome to Quixotic Heights, where we celebrate extraordinary people who dare to live with purpose, passion, and perseverance. I'm your host, Amy M. Lee, and today I have the pleasure of introducing a woman whose life is a masterclass in resilience, self-reliance, and intentional living. Tamara Dragseth is an avid reader, lifelong learner, and what many would call a true Renaissance woman. From spinning wool, knitting, sewing, gardening, and cooking from scratch to managing investments, repairing homes, painting, Tamara embodies a level of practical wisdom that seems increasingly rare in today's world. A former auditor for Safeco, she spent years honing her financial expertise while raising her son. Through discipline, determination, and commitment to living below her means, she built a life of financial independence without sacrificing the things that mattered most. Today, Tamara enjoys retirement alongside her husband, biking to local farmers markets, traveling, embracing simple pleasures, and sharing her love of books through beta reading, book reviews, and content editing for Quill Hawk Publishing. In this episode, we'll explore the lessons she's learned about money, motherhood, resilience, self-sufficiency, and finding joy in life's everyday moments. And with that, welcome, Tamara, to Quixotic Heights. How are you?
Very well, thank you. It's a beautiful day outside, and I've already been
Yay!
in the pool.
Lovely. Well, I'm glad you can join us today. I've been wanting to talk to you and get you on this podcast for a while because I'm a big fan of yours. Just for the listeners who don't know, I'm a fan of yours because not only are you my mother-in-law, but you are also just an incredible woman who
Thank
really
you.
helped me to get into the kitchen because when I started dating your son and I met you, I was like, oh my goodness, I better learn how to cook if I'm going to feed him like his mom does. But let's just get started first with, other than the intro, what would you say to our audience about you? How would you describe yourself?
Um, I'm curious, and so my curiosity has just led me on the path, and I followed it. I haven't worried about what other people think about me, about what I should do. I just do what it is that I want to do, and oftentimes, there's always responsibilities there, but I read what I've wanted to read, and as opposed to reading what people say that I ought to read. Um, if something interests me, I follow it. So my curiosity is something that I've always been very fond of about myself.
Yeah, and a lot of us are curious about certain things, but then we quickly dismiss it, and we move on to something else. And I find that you're not like that. Like truly, when you're like, I wonder, and then as soon as you ask that I wonder question, you're immediately
It's a
on
lot
it.
it's a lot easier to answer I wonder in this day and age of computers, but previously the I wonder meant that one had to go to the library to scratch that I wonder itch.
Mhm. So take us back a little bit to, your earlier years. What were you like in terms of trying to navigate the world that you live in? Give us insight into your background.
um, Golly, where do I start? I had a good childhood. We had My first childhood memories are of being in Colorado, and there was a forest to our right, a 40-acre field in front of us, and the national forest across the street. So from a kid's standpoint, we all had ponies. We were let loose, go wander, pick the wildflowers, stay out of the way of a porcupine. If you fall down, you picked yourself up and you dusted yourself off and you cried a little bit, and then you figured out how to get back on your pony and continue wandering. So I had a really good childhood. And even when we moved to Washington, I still had access not to ponies at that point in time, but to horses. And so I was able to wander. And I continue to wander to this day. Now on bikes or on foot, but I love wandering new places and just wander through town or paths or what have you. And that is that curiosity, what's around the bend,
Hmm. Yeah.
that
And you,
curiosity. And so we were, my mother and father divorced when I was 13 years old. So we were on our own at that point in time. Uh, you know, we were responsible for maintaining the house while my mother was at work, feeding, preparing the family dinner and watching out for each other. So there's a lot of responsibilities at an early age, but because we were responsible for ourselves when we were out playing, that wasn't that difficult of a transition.
now when you say we,
Uh,
who are we talking about?
my older sister and my younger sister. So
Hmm.
that was three of us. We didn't
Yeah.
necessarily do everything together, but certainly when we were, under the age of teenagers, we were all together doing things together, riding our ponies together. And then when we moved to Washington, we went our separate ways and we had our friends, but we were still out and about and of course bickering as only teenage girls can bicker.
Okay, so then let's fast forward. You went into a career as an auditor. Can you share a little bit about how you got into that position?
It was it oh, golly. Uh I was in retail management and realized I didn't like retail management. And so I was mutually removed from that position with an agreement that my prior employer at that point in time pay for outplacement counseling for me. That was a thing back in the mid 80s, outplacement counseling. And I discovered that one of my skills was pushing paper, that analytical thought process. And so, with the assistance of them and um, a headhunter, they found me a position at Safeco Insurance. And
Hmm.
I pushed paper for a long time in claims department. At that point in time, it was um, medical insurance, adjudicating medical claims, and that was enjoyable for a lot of reasons. We had our own group of clientele, our patients that we saw on a continual basis. And so we were able to develop a firm relationship with those people. And then when they had their, like, if they had a cancer or something along those lines, they didn't have to go through a new claims adjuster each time trying to explain why the treatment was necessary. The claims adjuster was personalized to them. We knew their problems, and we paid their claims. So it was a good relationship, and then that transferred into doing medical malpractice defense claims, where our insureds were the doctors. In my instance, I was dentistry and then later podiatric malpractice, where we were handling clients across the country. And again, that personal relationship with the insured and handling their claims and some sad circumstances there. That morphed into handling claims and the construction different standpoint. Through this time, I'm developing my skills, and I became known for having a very good understanding of coverage. And then I began mentoring others through seminars, speaking with agents, etc. You classed me as an auditor. I wasn't an auditor. I became a claims analyst, where I was analyzing and doing some mentoring of some younger adjusters and handling the really high level claims that would I called us the special forces, so the types of claims that would really make a younger claims adjuster nervous. We
Mm,
did with ease. We made it look easy, and we were dealing with high dollar values. So it was more of a
mm,
claims analyst than
gotcha.
an auditor. Uh,
Thank you. Thank you for that
but
clarification.
that's okay. It was, how did I get there? I got there through work. I got there through involving myself in extracurricular activities, the CLM, CPCU organization. I went through my CPCU program, takes people usually about 5 to 10 years, depending upon how slow they are. So I was a little slow on the CPCO. Started out, my first test was the infamous blue book. Rip open your blue book. You've got 10 questions. You can throw one out and you have 3 hours to answer.
Oh gosh.
By the time I was done. And people who have gone through the bar or through the board examination for like civil engineering to understand what a blue book is. That will tell you how long ago I started that. And then by the time I was done with the program, because I took my time, uh, it was all on computer.
Hmm. Hmm. Sounds painful.
It was as painful or not as you wish. There were some really difficult courses that people smarter than me failed, and so that was a little intimidating. And once I passed one of those courses, then I knew that I could continue because there was a lot of accounting and property claims. Yeah, there was a course on property claims, and Tamara does not do property.
So what's one of the biggest things you learned from that career that you applied
Listen
to
to
your life?
people.
Yeah.
To listen to people. People need to be heard. They need to be able to say what they want to say and have someone listen to them. They may not agree, but to be heard by someone else is essential. And if you can hear what the other person is saying, not just listen, but actually hear what it is that they're saying and be able to reiterate to them what it is that they're saying, then you can have a discussion about here's where our differences lie, here's where our agreement lies. So that the difference between us is really only this big, not this big. So how can we bridge that difference?
Mm,
Listen to people and hear
yeah.
them.
And I love what you said about reiterating, because when we can reiterate what we've heard, right, then it demonstrates that we truly listened, but it demonstrates that we understood. And so if you can repeat something, then truly you've learned what that message is or what that.
The same thing is true of teaching. If
Mm,
you if you feel that you are a good teacher, then your students ought to be able to reiterate what you just taught them.
yes, they
And
ought to.
if they can't, either you're not teaching them the way they need to learn, or they're just not listening to you.
Hmm. So I find that your son Joe, my husband, is very good at that. He's very good about in very basic terminology explain something, whether it be investments or the mechanics of a car or whatever it is. He's very good at explaining things. And although that makes me a really bad student because I do listen, I just don't comprehend sometimes what he's saying.
That's
But
okay.
but I acknowledge he's really good. And I wonder if growing up, was that kind of the relationship that you had where you explained a lot to him and he was able to just absorb what you were.
Um, I don't know whether or not Joe will hear this. I think Joe's a lot like me. I recognized that he was expressing his frustration the same way that I expressed frustration when he was in kindergarten. So I figured that if I could help him to understand things, then it might lessen that frustration. He and I are both physical learners, although I do auditory as well, but well, visual, more visual. If someone just tells me something, I have a difficult time with it. But if I can hear it and envision it, then it makes sense to me. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And and then throw in the physical, and once I've done it physically and can envision it, it stay
Yeah.
there. So um, to the extent that I helped him, excellent. But I think he figured it out a lot by himself as well. And that's even more important.
Yeah, I'm a physical learner in
Partial
that
answer,
respect
sorry.
too. What's that?
I said that's a partial answer. I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay.
think you'd
I
have
mean,
to ask Joe as to how he developed that ability. It might be because he is a patient individual. And I think to be a parent, you have to be a good parent. You have to be a patient individual. And he wants people to know what he knows. And so he's figured out how to say it in a way that they can understand it.
yeah, I think it's a talent, really. Um, because for me, it's like, yeah, I can visualize it, but until I'm actually doing it, that's how I'm gonna learn and cement that learning. Just like, you and I recently did a sourdough bread making class, and you can tell me everything about it. I'm like, But when you start talking about the proofing and the whatever, I was like, okay, I need to actually do it. And so thankfully, and you're a good teacher because, we walked through the steps and you're accessible so I can text you and that kind of thing. And all of the Quill Hawk folks who did do the bread making class, they were very complimentary. So
Thank
thank
you.
you. Okay,
Bread
so
is
now
life.
say that again.
Bread is life.
Bread
It
is
is.
life.
It,
I love it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
breaking bread, at a table and just learning about each other and having dinner together. That speaks volumes, and I love it. But I want to pivot a little bit to, well, kind of back actually to your son. You raised your son pretty much on your own. I mean,
Yeah.
George came into your lives for, early on too, but can you share a little bit about, what it was like to, raise a child by yourself?
In some ways, it was an absolute blast because it was just he and I against the world. So if we wanted to have breakfast for dinner, we could have breakfast for dinner, and I didn't have to involve someone else's opinion about what do you want for dinner. No, I don't want dinner. You don't have to have any arguments about discipline philosophy or anything along those lines. It's just you and your child against the world, so to speak. So in some ways, it's easy. In other ways, it was not easy because when it's just you and you need some downtime because it was a really rough day, a child, under the age of 6 is not going to know why you just need that 20 minutes in the bath time without him putting his lips underneath the door. Mommy, what you doing? But it
Oh,
was, I have so many fun memories of picking him up from daycare and going to um, going to the lake to have a picnic lunch and feed the ducks and then take him back to daycare
yeah. Um,
before I go and finish. You only have one and they're old enough to really enjoy amusement rides, taking
mm.
them to Knott's Berry Farm and having this the same sort of energy. It's an absolute blast. So
Do you feel like how you raised Joe was different than how other parents raised their children at that time, during that
I
time period?
I have no clue. I can tell you that uh, a lot of his friends spent time at our house. there was one of his friends when he was a teenager. One of his friends was a very responsible young boy and a young man, and he was always having to go home to take care of his younger sibling. Um, but a lot of his friends were at my house, and I'd be feeding them, which begs the question of why weren't their parents feeding them? So was it that much different? When I would say that when Joe was young, meaning under a teenager, the his friends were very similar to him. Their parents were involved. They wanted to know where their kids were. Dinner was a table affair every night. But when he was a teenager and above, a lot of his friends were fending for themselves at home.
Hmm.
So, and that was different because I always cooked and we always had discussions while I was cooking and while we were eating dinner.
Why do you think you were always cooking when it could have easily been like a drive-through McDonald's, whatever, but you had always been the one that was in the kitchen preparing whatever you could to feed him.
Two reasons. I like food. Fast food is not food. And I was, I won't say that I was poor, but there were times when money was really, really tight and convenience or fast food is very expensive. So you can buy a chicken and you can eat from that chicken for an entire week. Or you can go to Chick-fil-A, spend the same amount of money and eat for one meal.
Mhm.
So it was a matter of economics. And I didn't want to be paying for crap food that I didn't like the taste of. So I always cooked. And my mother always cooked. So I have that as the example. My mother cooked every single night until we were teenagers. And then I took over that cooking for her. She'd tell me what I was supposed to make, and then I would make it. Although, oddly enough, she didn't actually teach me to cook. I cooked and I had the interest of it. But then I checked out, well, I didn't check out. I had a subscription to Bon Appetit for over a decade. And Bon Appetit taught me to cook because I would use that recipe, or I would use that magazine for the month, and I would make recipes from it. And then, try to extend them for the week to feed us leftovers.
Yeah, or as we call them,
Do with
Muscos.
leftovers. Yeah, I would make something different. I mean, if uh, steak was never part of our um, repertoire until later, but if I did have steak, if I had leftover steak, then the next day it's going to get turned into fajitas or something else, black and blue
Mhm.
salad, something else, so that it doesn't go to waste.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. So I didn't realize you learned how to cook really from, between your mom and Bon Appetit because
Yeah,
back in those days, we didn't necessarily have like a YouTube channel or,
no, we
Pinterest that you
didn't.
could go on, and so it's the good old fashioned way of looking at a recipe in a magazine or a cookbook or whatever, or just observing your family members.
I loved the photos. That would capture my attention. I like the bright colors and the way the food is presented. And it's like, aha, I want to eat that. And and Thanksgiving, I would be wanting to have the foods that were being presented in the magazine, and the family would just want mashed potatoes. They wanted the uh,
Yeah.
the favorites.
Do you think you would have been a good chef or a restaurateur?
No,
No?
I catered some events, and it was a very stressful time for me. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy even tasting the food. It was stressful. And I recognized that that which I loved, if I turned it into a money-making proposition, it would be work
Hmm.
in the pejorative sense of the
Hmm.
word work. So no.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear ya because sometimes Preston, my son, will be like, "You should open a restaurant or a food truck." I'm like, but then I won't enjoy cooking anymore. And
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. So you mentioned economics. I
Mhm.
want to talk a little bit about how did you get started in terms of going from, being a young mother, living within your means and stretching that dollar to really where you are today. You're retired. You spend a good amount of time either traveling or just doing what you want to do because you're retired.
Yes, first you have to have a plan. For me, I didn't want to keep working my entire life. I'd be out wandering and I would see these 75-year-old women working in a gift shop or something along those lines. And I thought, oh my God, save me from that future. And there were some, how did I run across it? I don't remember exactly how I ran across it because it was before blogging became a thing. But I ran across the book Your Money or Your Life by Robin McKenzie and Joel something or other. Um, and it resonated with me because it spoke about how you spend your money intentionally or negligently. Most of us are very negligent when it comes to our money. And it changed what you spend on money into a function of how many hours do I have to work to buy this. And
Hmm.
at that time, I was buying a lot of books. I was buying a lot of shoes and suits and clothes and such like that. But I also knew that I wanted to be retired. I didn't want to just work all the time. Um, and I started keeping track of how I spent money and realized that, my God, I spent $1,000 one month on books.
Thank goodness for the libraries
Like,
now.
doing that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And when you think, do I really want to buy this pizza? That's 2 hours of work for this one pizza. Is it worth it?
Hmm.
And for me, Your Money or Your Life resonated with me, and it helped me to change the way I was spending money. I was never able to track my investments and spending the way they did it, but that's okay because there's lots of different ways of going about it. And my focus then became on um, investing. And fortunately, there were lots of ways of going about it. I wasn't in debt, so that was nice. Um, And my coworkers, I ended up with some coworkers who were savvier than I. And so we would talk about it. And when you talk about investing on a regular basis, then you actually do indeed invest. My family didn't talk about investing. My family still doesn't talk about investing. My mother used to say, live within your means, but that simply means here's your paycheck, don't spend more than your paycheck. In order to invest, you have to live below your means so that you have something extra. And how do you go about doing that? There's different ways. Um, there used to be a blog, it no longer exists, but there was a blog that was very influential for me, and it was called Free Money Finance. One of the first things that he did that resonated with me is he had a chart. How much do you earn? How old are you? This is what your net worth should be
Hmm.
based
That's a
upon that.
handy dandy tool.
It is kind of a handy dandy tool. And so I read him on a regular basis. Uh, and my thinking began changing. One of the things that he emphasized was to live off of one salary and to have, if you are a couple, to live off of one salary, invest the other. Um, but if you only have the one salary, to have a side hustle, try to earn about $10,000 a year through that side hustle and invest it all. So
Hmm.
it's not enough to just earn, you need to save, and then you need to invest. So that blog is now ESI, earn, save, invest. It's a good blog. There's a lot of good blogs out there, but that again resonated with me. So I had, how did I do this? I had mentors at work. I was reading the books to learn about investing. Um, I was reading the blogs about investing, and nothing right wing or um, nothing non-mainstream, if you will. This is just basic advice that we have to learn on our own because it's not taught in school, nor is it taught from the average family to the family members. The one percenters, if you will, the wealthy people, they talk about investing all the time.
Mhm.
Why don't we? For
Yeah, because
us,
I grew up not learning about money management and investing either.
right. We have the fear of missing out. We have the I deserve it. Well, guess what? I deserve to not work, which means that I have to prepare for not working. And Dave Ramsey, there's a lot that I like about Dave Ramsey. There's a lot that I dislike. But one of the things that I really like about him is his mantra, live like no one else so that you can later live like no one else. So I
Hmm.
live like no one else. And now I'm living like no one else, or rather, like many people would like to live. Um,
Yeah,
so I
you're doing a great
say,
job.
and the Free Money Finance blog would interview people who had already made it and ask, how did you do it? What's your number that you need in order to be financially independent? And how did you do it? What was your career? What's your advice for others? How do you treat yourself? Because you have to treat yourself. It shouldn't be austerity, because anyone who has gone through an austerity diet knows that you fall off the bandwagon and you cease to become austere. And so living beneath your means is not eating lentils every day. It's living within your means. Don't squander your money. Treat your money like a business. That's my theory, is we treat our money like a business. In my household, we call it the Dragseth LLC. We know where how much money is coming in, we know how much money is going out, and we make it count.
Yeah, yeah. So, what are some of the tips and advice you can offer to someone who is just starting, to invest or who has a plan to retire? How much money should we be saving to live, comfortably?
Fortunately, these things are determined by others, so it's really easy. Um, I would encourage everyone to know to treat your money like a business, account for everything, like an accountant would. If you had a business, you're going to have a bookkeeper or an accountant, and they're going to know every penny that comes in and every penny that goes out and be able to say, okay, well, our advertising costs are going up. Or, for us, it's right now because of inflation, our food costs are going up.
Mhm.
And do we really need to spend this amount of money on food or on alcohol or, our entertainment expenses this month have really skyrocketed. Is this the way we want to do it? So account for your money, um, and know how much money you spend, because you need to know how much money you spend before you know how much money you need, right?
Right.
A general rule of thumb is that you need 25 to 35 times your annual expenses to be able to retire. Okay. And that is based upon the 4% rule. And the 4% rule is an economic paper that was done a couple of 4 decades ago, I think, by an economist who determined that if you withdraw 4% of your, and he won a Nobel Prize for this, if you withdraw 4% of your investments then on the first year, and then 4% plus the cost of living every year thereafter. So it's always 4% plus the cost of living. Then your portfolio should should survive a 30-year span without running out. So that 4% equates to 25. So are you with me so far?
Mm-hmm.
If you're spending $100,000 a year, and I don't have a calculator here in front of me, if you spend $100,000 a year, you need 2.5 million, because that's 25 times 100 grand. You need 2.5 million in order to sustain that spending. So you see why
Mm-hmm.
spending is so important? I can't tell you how much you need to have in investments. I can tell you it's going to be a formula of how much you spend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because now it's like once that money stops coming in, the regular paycheck, right? You've got to think about your house repairs, your health
Yes.
and insurance, and everything goes up, and it's just yeah, it's crazy.
Yes. And when you are following a financial blog like I followed, and some people love Mr. Money Mustache when his earlier work, I enjoyed him too. He was a hoot. When you follow them and you see what others have been doing for decades, you will see that this actually works. That the trick is that just because you earned an extra 50 grand that year doesn't mean that you can blow it. Your investment needs to be strong in order for you to be able to continue to take it, because there will be bear markets where there is a contraction, and that contraction could be 10%. That contraction could be 15, 20%. Fortunately, the average rate of the recession, aka a bear market, where the bear goes into the cave and hibernates for a while, the average lifespan of that recession is about 18 months. So the corollary to that is, if you have 18 months or 2 years worth of expenses saved in your emergency as cash, then you don't need to tap into your retirement savings.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to tap uh, into your investments. Now, you asked what would be my advice to someone starting out. Use index funds rather than a mutual fund because of fees. A mutual fund is usually charging right around 1%, and they charge you 1% when you make money. They charge you 1% when you don't make money. Whereas if you are in an index fund in a low cost company like Fidelity or Schwab or TD Ameritrade or Vanguard, one of those, and I think there might be a fifth one, your expenses are like 0.16. Okay.
That's a
So
huge difference. Yeah.
those fees can really eat into your investment earnings, and just stay in like the S&P 500. Famously, Warren Buffett had bets with hedge fund managers about who would win. Warren Buffett would just put his money into an S&P 500, and the hedge fund guy could do whatever the hedge fund guy wanted to do. And Warren Buffett would always win. At the end of that 5 years, the S&P 500 outperformed the hedge fund. And usually the bet was like $1 million that would go to charity, which was super nice. But the S&P 500 always wins. It's why it's the benchmark. Everyone wants to beat the S&P 500. So just put it in there, let it ride.
I love it. That's great. Great words of wisdom. I know I mean, when Joe's home, the first thing that is on the TV is Bloomberg, and we're like watching,
Yes.
what's going on in the world, and when should we sell? When should we
Yeah.
buy? So it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
interesting on that. Women are more risk adverse than men. So if you look at women investors and men investors, women typically have a higher rate of return than men because men are trading more than
Hmm.
women.
Hmm. Interesting.
I'm a buy and hold sort of person.
Okay. Did Joe learn a lot of this from you, or is
I
he just,
tried. I
yeah.
think I think Joe has an interest in money, as we all should, because no one else is going to be taking care of us. We have to take care of ourselves. So Joe has an interest in money, and I think a lot of it he learned. I gave him some books, whether he read them or not, I don't know. But I think he has. I think it's native to him that he wants to know about it. He recognizes that the way great wealth has been earned in this country and in others is through land and investing.
Yeah. Well, and he's such a family man too, right? So he's always thinking about how can he take care of his
Provider.
family. Yeah, huge provider. And, he travels Monday through Friday, so we only see each other on the weekends. So every minute counts, every dollar counts. I think part of it too is when did you retire? What age?
I was I was 55.
55.
I was 55. Hang on, I'm going to let the
I mean,
dog out.
that's amazing. Young, 55, and you're doing so much. Um, and Joe is 10 years younger than me, and I think part of it is like, we count the time that we have together because I am older than him, and he wants to be able to retire early as well, and
Mhm.
spend our time as a family. And he's 42. His goal is to retire by 50. And I think he can do it because he's learned so much, from you, from just watching the market, and he's a natural, curious learner like you are. So I'm feeling so blessed. But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about Quill Hawk Publishing and your content editing and your
One,
beta
one,
reading.
one last thing that I'd
Yes.
like to tell everyone. You have to you have to envision yourself with money first. So it might be that the first envisionment that you have, the first vision that you have for yourself is having no debt. But you have to envision yourself having money before you're going to be able to save it, because a lot of the times, first of all, it takes most people some form of 20 years to be able to save $1 million. And that's a
Mm,
lot of money. For me, it was 22 years. 22 years to save the first $1 million. The second comes much faster. I think it was like 7 years, but I was taking money out at part of that. So there's that. Um, it takes a long time. So, but envision yourself having that money. And maybe the first goal is to have $1,000. And then the second goal is to have $5,000. And then the next goal is to have 10. But picture yourself, give that money a name, like this is my retirement fund. Otherwise, what's going to prevent you from dipping into what should be your retirement fund and, taking it on a trip to Hawaii instead? I mean, you're
mhm.
going to have fun in Hawaii, but when you're done with that trip, you're left with zero. Whereas
Yeah,
if you let those little dollars grow, then you're going to have more little dollars and more little dollars and more little dollars. And then once it's hit critical mass, then you can go to Hawaii every year.
yeah. That's truly, it takes a lot of discipline and definitely a shift, a mind shift,
Yeah.
mindset shift in
Yes.
terms of how you think
Yeah.
about money, and not only about the saving,
Yeah.
but then also how you spend it. Okay,
Yes.
so
And that's the shift that we go.
you love books. You
I do.
admitted to spending $1,000 a month once on
Yep.
books. Why books? What is it about books?
Oh, it's different worlds. I wander. I told you I wander. Books let you wander in your mind. And if it's a good book and you drop into that, the entire world disappears. My God. My mother introduced me to Tolkien when I was in seventh grade, I think. And I remember vividly reading. My sister received Elton John's Rocket Man.
Mm.
And for me, Bilbo Baggins riding the barrels out of the elf kingdom down the river, Rocket Man.
Mm.
The two are connected because I dropped into the Shire and I didn't surface for a while. So books have helped me wander. They tantalize the fantasy needs in my mind. They have taught me, they've given me a liberal arts education simply because if the book cover captures my attention, I read it for many years. It was all the, classics except for Shakespeare. Shakespeare and I never got along, but Charles Dickens and um, Flaubert and Alexander Dumas, just all sorts of these classic authors. I would be reading them. And today, a friend and I were talking about Napoleon, and I was like, Napoleon was Corsican, wasn't he? Turns out I was right. He was Corsican. How did I learn that? I learned it from Alexander Dumas reading The Count of Monte Cristo.
Mm. Mm.
So books have given me a liberal arts education. They allow me to escape this reality that oftentimes can be really grim. Oh my word! The first time I read Anne Rice's The Interview with the Vampire, I finished it
Mhm.
at 2:30 in the morning. My apartment was totally dark. I was scared for my life.
Because you're going to turn
It's
around, there's
much.
going to be, Lestat
Yeah,
or
yeah,
who is
yeah,
it, the
yeah, yeah,
vampire?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're for me, they're much more vivid than a movie. But at the
Hmm.
same time, I have the control of them. I can get lost in a good book so easily. And they also soothe me. If I am anxious, I can read a book and it can soothe me. There's so much information in books as well that, I learn something from all of them. It could be about interpersonal relationships or how to, if you're having problems with a child, uh, an example in a book that wasn't intended to be, early childhood development can still help you with a problem that you may have. The food in some books. Have you ever read any Rex Stout? Rex
No.
novels? He was his Nero Wolfe was his protagonist, and Archie Goodwin was his sidekick. And it's from the uh, probably I'd say the 30s through the early 50s is his time frame, but they're filled with food. And so much
Mm.
so that at some point in time, the publisher created the Nero Wolfe cookbook.
Yeah.
So food pops up. I've never thought of eating chickens that have finished on blueberries, but now I want to. Where can I find a chicken farmer that will finish the chicken on blueberries? Uh, yeah.
Wow. So what makes a good book? Because you read all genres. You've admitted to reading the back of a cereal box if there was nothing else to read, right? So what makes a good, intriguing book?
It has got to capture my attention. And or I've been in different modes for a while. I wanted to learn about the different classes in America. And I know that America is famously classless, but I'm here to tell you we have class. So I wanted to, sometimes I just want to laugh. So one of the books that I found on class uh talked about it from, poking fun at the various classes. But so that was it was amusing. It was just a curiosity that I had, but that morphed into reading essentially sociology for about 2 years because that's what my interest was at that point in time. A good book has got to capture my attention. The writing has to be good. Um, I'm sorry, John Grisham, but I cannot stand your writing. And I've tried to read some John Grisham, and it's poor writing, in my opinion. So it has to be good writing, and it has to be intelligent. One of my favorite openings is, well, Charles Dickens, always Charles, but Stephen King's the Dark Tower. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Do you not want to find out what happened next? I did. I love that book. It was very well written. It was when before he had really developed his writing style, and so it was shorter sentences. It was cleaner. Sometimes he got really, really verbose when he got as he developed his craft, if you will. But earlier on, he was very succinct and yet evocative at the same time. So sometimes I want a good romance, and I love Abby Jimenez because she has modern, realistic romances that always end in happiness. Sometimes you just want to read something that will make you happy. And so I turn to Abby Jimenez when I want that. I love some of
not
the
Gone with the Wind.
No, God, I hate that story. And Anna Karenina. I hate that. Weak protagonists, the women are demonstrated as either being incredibly self-centered or selfish or weak. And in both instances, those women don't care about their children. You lost me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how you got into beta reading, content editing, book reviews. Is it something that you enjoy? Is it something that is kind of like, well, I'm retired and it keeps me in, my nose is in the books, pre-published books, I might add.
Yes, I enjoy those. It's a challenge sometimes. Sometimes the writing is very raw, and I have to try to explain while I am admittedly critical, but also try to find the kernel of uh, of good, if you will, within. And sometimes that might be a sentence, or it's an imagery that has been created, or the plot line can be quite good, and I enjoy that. How did I get into it? I got into it because of you. You said, will I write a report? And it's like a beta review. Sure, I'll do a beta review. And no one ever told me what a beta review is. And I just treated it like the type of report that I would have done when I was working. And, make notes and then do an analysis. And it turns out that that's more content editing than anything else. But it makes sense to me, is to make notes on the errors that I might find, or a really good sentence or good characters, and then as I'm reading, I make those notes. Then afterwards, I put it all together in a report that is hopefully cohesive and makes sense to the author, to help them either streamline or augment or pat themselves on the back as
Yeah,
they.
like I'm so thankful for you because you're really good at content editing, which I don't like doing. So you're the yin to my yang or whatever, because I love line editing. I love going line by line and checking out the grammar and the syntax and that kind of stuff. But because you are so well versed in the literary scene in terms of your reading knowledge, you have the ability to compare in the back of your cataloged mind, like, oh, this resonates with me because it's comparable to this particular book or author or voice, right? The style. And I recently sent you two. One was Mr. K. Dean,
Yes.
who, a little bit on the
widespread.
Shakespeare side. I'm like, thank God I'm not doing this one. And then the other one I sent you was Eyes of the Sentinel, with Jill and Bob Barset and Jill McIverna. So
I
tell me a
really
little
hope
bit.
they do a sequel. There was just and it's totally on point to Eyes of the Sentinel. There's recently, sadly, it was a little while ago because they kept it under wraps. Um, AI got loose. AI was
Mm,
being tested within confines. It wasn't an air gapped um, situation. They should have done it in an air gap situation, but AI didn't want to follow the humans' rules and it got loose. And it
hmm
took these people by surprise. And it took them a long time to corral that AI again. And I'm thinking, that would be Sentinel, eyes on the Sentinel. That AI
hmm
could get loose, and that would be a heck of a second book, partially cautionary tale. We all need
mm,
cautionary tales so that we can see what might happen if we follow this path. That's to me what dystopian books are about. And if you look through history, I've been reading a lot of dystopian books since I was, seventh grade, the science fiction, the old science fiction. There's a lot of some really dark dystopian paths that if you compare them to what's going on now, they're very, very similar.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's very
eyes on
telling.
the sentinel. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What
I'm
was your
sure.
question, Amy?
Who cares? Um, but I was gonna also ask you about AI, really, because do you think AI would ever have a seat at the table when it comes to content editing?
Um, yes, but how well?
Hmm
AI is has a seat at the table doing art right now. But do they do it well? Uh, and AI has a seat at the table doing coding, but do they do it well? Or does it do it well?
hmm
That is the question. I think that there is going to, AI currently doesn't earn money. Billions and billions of dollars are being poured in from venture capitalists to develop AI. At some point in time, AI is going to have to pay for itself. How is it going to pay for itself? Usually that means loss of jobs for humans. It's going to have to pay for itself at some point in time, or people are going to stop putting money into it. And then, of course, the stocks drop and stuff like that. But people are going to find ways to utilize AI to earn that buck. And of course, AI does their work so much faster than humans. So if AI can line content edit a book, it will. And how good of a content editing will it do?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, not as good as Tamara Dragseth.
Well,
I,
how many people that listen have used Chat GPT to write a letter?
hmm Oh, yeah.
Um, there there are going to be a significant number of people who don't know how to craft a good letter anyway, that are going to look at it and go, that's so much better than I could have written. And they're never going to learn how to write a good letter. So they're
hmm
going to continue to have that ignorance. AI is scary to me because it's going to limit the knowledge that we ourselves can obtain. I would love to write better letters. My letters are stuck in Safeco days where it was all just the facts, ma'am, and here's the analysis and blah, 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 blah. A good letter to a friend, that art, it is an art and it's being lost.
hmm
And then you add in AI and we're going to lose it even more. Audible, people are losing this is ironic to have this discussion with a publisher. We have fewer people reading books now than we have in the last 40 years. The
Mm-hmm.
Atlantic has an article on it this month that we're at the end of reading. And
Mm.
then going forward, less and less people are going to be reading, and the rate of literacy is going down. 16% of teenagers read for pleasure. Holy mackerel. What
Yeah.
are they doing? No
Yeah, we
one
know what they're
knows.
doing.
Yeah, we know what they're doing. No one knows fairy tales anymore. Fairy
Yeah.
tales are not read to children. The fables are not read to children. We're
Yeah.
losing so much of it. So add AI into it, it's just going to get worse.
Yeah. Scary. All right, let's talk about something fun.
Okay.
Let's let's do a lightning round. I've got some questions. You just answer whatever's at the top of your mind.
Okay.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee,
Ebook or physical books?
ebook,
Garden or bookstore?
garden,
Knit a sweater or plant a vegetable garden?
repeat.
Knit a sweater or plant a vegetable
Oh,
garden?
depends on my mood. Because when I'm
Okay.
traveling, I'll knit.
Yeah. And you travel how many months out of the year?
Last year it was about 7. This coming year, it'll be about 6
Right. Okay. Best financial advice in one sentence.
in one sentence. Earn, save, and invest.
And the most underrated life skill.
Cooking,
Mm,
self-sufficiency.
hmm One book everyone should read.
Golly, that's a hard one. I don't actually have an answer.
Okay. Favorite thing to buy at a farmer's market.
Flowers, vegetables.
Vegetables. Did you say flour
Mm-hmm.
as in the dough flour or the
No, flowers. Yes, I love having fresh cut flowers.
got it? One thing people spend too much money on.
Junk food.
Mm. And what does living a rich life mean to you?
Having control over my time and having the means by which I can do what it is that I want. That is financial independence.
Yeah, that's freedom. That's great. I don't have any more questions. Do we have any topics that you want to cover, Tamara, that we haven't talked about yet? Anything you want to spotlight or highlight?
We talked uh, about how to treat other people in the context of work. But I think that applies to interpersonal as well. What I have seen as I age is a lot of intolerance of others, a lot of self-centeredness. And I don't mean selfishness, although there is a component to that, but I mean self-centeredness, looking at others and by what's occurring to you. Someone didn't say hi to me, therefore they disrespected me or something like akin to that. That's being very self-centered. You don't know what the other person is going through. We tend to be very critical of ourselves. We tend to be very critical of others as well, especially women being critical of other women. Oh my God, do you see what she's wearing? She shouldn't be wearing that because she doesn't have the body for it. Or, you know, she didn't say hi to me, so I'm being disrespected. I know I'm reiterating myself. I think we need to be kinder to ourselves and we need to be kinder to other people because we don't know what's going on through their lives. That person who didn't say hi to them may be in the early onset of dementia.
Mm.
They may be wrapped up in themselves so much because of the trauma that is going on in their lives that they don't have bandwidth for recognizing that anyone is around them. So we need to be more understanding and less prone to being critical of others and critical of ourselves. Give grace to everyone because you don't know what's going on. But if you do give grace, if you refuse to be offended, then you're going to be a happier person because you don't automatically go to the negative. You go towards, boy, it's got to be really difficult to be in Lisa's head today. Or, oh, God be with them because they're going through a lot. And expend love to others instead. If you go out and volunteer your time, and it's just time, it's not money, but if you go out and volunteer your time, especially with people who are in extended stay living facility, these people will give you a great joy in life because they live in the present. They're so very thankful that you're coming to visit them. They have brain injuries. They have physical ailments. They may have lost their limbs to illness or accident. And there's an element, of course, of there, but for the grace of God go I. But more so, these people are happy that you're choosing to spend time with them, which lends to happiness in your own life, which lends to more happiness and more love. And the more love you give to others, the more love you will give to yourself. And it's a wonderful way to live rather than assuming that everyone is out to get you.
Hmm. Very
So,
wise words, and what a great way to wrap up the episode with just more kindness and more love, more patience, more grace. Um,
share of yourself too. Everyone has
yeah,
talents. I happen to know how to make sourdough bread. I shared that with you.
yeah,
Everyone
thank
has
you.
talents. And if you share them with others, life is so
Yes,
much better.
truly, really is. Thank you, Tamara, for spending the hour with us. I continue to be admired by you and love you dearly.
Thank you. The feeling is
Listeners,
mutual. See, I expressed love. You expressed love. We're both filled with love.
yes, and we're going to extend that love to our audience, our listeners. So, for those of you who joined today, thank you so much for spending your time with us. Tamara's story reminds us that success isn't always measured by titles or possessions or status. Sometimes it's found in the quiet strength of raising a child on your own, learning practical skills, living within your means, cultivating meaningful relationships, and creating a life filled with purpose and gratitude. Her journey demonstrates that financial independence isn't just about money, it's about freedom, confidence, the ability to live life on your own terms. And her example encourages us to embrace lifelong learning, value simple pleasures, and recognize that the small choices we make every day can shape an extraordinary life. So if you enjoyed today's episode and this conversation, please subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who could use a little inspiration. Until next time, please keep dreaming boldly, living intentionally, and reaching for your own quixotic heights. I'm Amy M. Lee and my guest Tamara Dragseth, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you again, Tamara.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And now, a quick message from our sponsor. Thanks for tuning in.
Are you burned out? Running on empty. Shift your mind and the rest will follow. From compassion fatigue to connection. And from singled out to celebrated. Want less chronic fatigue, apathy, outbursts, detachment, poor performance, and injuries? Want to learn to say no without guilt, set boundaries, regulate your vagus nerve, and gain confidence? Zen out, hike, visit friends, join a group, eat fresh, and stand tall. Once I learned to regulate my vagus nerve, my emotions improved, said Simone. Spending time in nature was a game changer for me, said Katie. CEU courses offered for licensed physical therapists and assistants, also courses without testing for the general public. So fall of 2026, go to dbrit.com to sign up for Running on Empty. Shift your mind and the rest will follow.